Today, we're going to journey back in time, way, way back, about 60 million years, to meet a snake so impossibly huge, its discovery literally forced scientists to rewrite the rules of what's possible in the animal kingdom.
So picture this, a coal mine in Colombia. Paleontologists are digging around, looking for clues about the world's very first tropical rainforests. And deep inside the rock, they find something they weren't expecting at all. Just a single fossilized bone.
But here's the thing. This wasn't just any old bone. It was huge, like unbelievably massive. Big enough to suggest it belonged to an animal of truly impossible scale, a reptile that would make even the biggest snakes alive today look tiny.
And with that one bone, science got its first introduction to a true prehistoric monster, a king of serpents with a name to match, Titanoboa.
Okay, so just how big was this thing really? Let's try to wrap our heads around the mind-boggling scale we're talking about here. Because, this isn't just a big snake. We're talking about a creature that pushes the absolute limits of biology.
This really puts it all into perspective, doesn't it? On one side, you've got a vertebra from a green anaconda. That's the biggest snake on the planet today. And on the other? Titanoboa. It's not even close. It's on a completely different level. We're talking more than twice as long as an anaconda, reaching up to 50 feet.
And its weight? Oh, it gets even crazier. We're estimating about 1.2 tons. That's heavier than a car. Just think about that for a second. A snake that weighs more than a sedan. It was something like 10 times heavier than the biggest anaconda ever found. This thing was a true heavyweight champion.
So how in the world do you go from one single bone to all of this? Well, it was basically a decades-long detective story. This wasn't some sudden eureka moment. It was a slow, careful process of putting all the pieces of the puzzle together.
Yeah, check out this timeline. It really shows you just how long and winding this road to discovery was. It all started back in 1994 with a mystery fossil. Then another one pops up in 2002. But it wasn't until 2007 at the Florida Museum of Natural History that someone finally put it next to a modern snake skeleton and the light bulb finally went on.
And for years, nobody even thought it was a snake. That's the wildest part. The bone was so ridiculously big that some people thought it was from an ancient crocodile, or maybe even, get this, a piece of petrified wood. That just shows you how completely unprecedented this animal really was. So once they figured out what it was, and just how mind-bendingly big it was, a new, even bigger question popped up. What kind of world could possibly create a snake this gigantic? Because an animal this extreme doesn't just happen by accident. It had to be a direct product of its environment.
To really get why Titanoboa got so big, we got to talk a little biology. Like all reptiles, it was an ectotherm, cold-blooded. That just means it couldn't make its own body heat. Its whole life, its energy, its metabolism was powered by the temperature outside. Kind of like a solar-powered machine. The hotter it is, the more power you've got to grow and hunt.
And this chart right here? This is the key to the whole mystery. For a cold-blooded animal to get that big, its world had to be seriously, seriously hot. Scientists figure its world had an average year-round temperature above 90 degrees Fahrenheit. That's 32 Celsius, way hotter than today's Amazon. That extreme heat basically supercharged its metabolism, letting it grow to that colossal size. So this intense heat created a very specific kind of habitat, a world that was pretty much perfectly built for giants. This was not the Amazon rainforest you might be picturing. This was a sweltering primordial jungle. Just try to imagine it, a hot, humid, swampy jungle that never ever cooled down. Just vast, murky rivers baking under a sun that never let up. This was Titanoboa's world, and that relentless energy is what it needed to sustain that massive body. And here's a crucial detail. This was an aquatic hunter. It lived in the water. I mean, it had to, right? On land, its own 1.2-ton body would have just been crushed by gravity. But in the water, it was basically weightless. It was agile, fast, and absolutely deadly. The water was its sanctuary, and it was its hunting ground.
So you've got this giant snake in a giant hot world. What in the world did it eat? And how did it hunt? As you can probably guess, keeping an engine that big running required a ton of food.
Well, like a modern crocodile, Titanoboa was a classic ambush predator. It wasn't about to go chasing things down. No, its strategy was all about patience. It would just lie there, perfectly still, submerged in the murky water, waiting. Sometimes for hours, maybe even days, for some poor, unsuspecting animal to come down to the water's edge.
And when it attacked, the force was just absolute. Biomechanical models figure its constriction power was over 400 pounds per square inch. To put that in perspective, that's like having 2 African elephants stand on your chest. This wasn't about suffocation. This was about instantly crushing bone and stopping blood flow. The battle was over in a second.
So what was on the menu? Other giants, of course. It preyed on massive, 8-foot-long turtles and even ancient crocodiles. A skull they found in 2011 showed that its jaw could dislocate, letting it swallow prey that was 3 times wider than its own head. Just incredible. So if it was the perfect predator with no enemies, why is it gone? The answer is both simple and pretty profound. The very world that created this giant would also be the thing that destroyed it.
It's kind of ironic, really. The one thing that gave it all its power, that extreme, constant heat, became its greatest weakness. It was so perfectly adapted to one specific climate that when that climate vanished, so did the Titan.
And this comparison really shows the dramatic shift. The planet began to cool. That sweltering, swampy world that fueled its metabolism just disappeared, replaced by a cooler, drier environment. For a highly specialized animal like this, that was a death sentence.
Ultimately, a perfect storm of factors sealed its fate. The cooling world slowed its metabolism to a crawl, making it too sluggish to hunt. At the same time, its swampy habitats were drying up, and new warm-blooded mammals started showing up, competing for whatever food was left. The king had lost its kingdom.
And this all leaves us with one last provocative thought. Titanoboa's existence was a direct result of a hotter world. So as our own planet warms up, are we accidentally creating the conditions for nature to once again start experimenting with giants? The story of Titanoboa isn't just a look into the past. It might just be a glimpse into a possible future.